which makes it unprofitable to run. Aquaculture has a similar problem. Aquaculture needs a lot of fresh water for the fish. Once the fish have been fed and they've pooed in it, you either have expensive filtering systems or you throw the water away and get new water. This is why aquaculture systems, you watch them, are always on a bank near a river or near an estuary where they can pull fresh water out and dump their waste, which is it's shocking. It's a disaster. Aquaponics is all about combining the two. The waste from the fish, which is ammonia, can be made into a food to feed the plants. And in making it into food to feed the plants, it then comes back as clean water. So now you've got a clean water supply for your fish, you've gotten rid of the wastes, and the plants have been fed without using any external chemicals, no input into the system, and the water can just go round and round and round indefinitely. Now how that works is because the fish poo, which becomes ammonia, the ammonia, there's nitrifying bacteria. The bacteria can take the ammonia and break that down into fish food, into plant food, into nitrates. They break it down into nitrites and then into nitrates, which run around, feed the plants, and then the clean water from the plants comes back to the fish, and we've got a nice little loop. Exactly the ideal situation we're looking for in aquaponics. Now, quickly going into a little more detail, it's these guys here, nitrosamous bacteria. They take ammonia, which is NH3, strip off the hydrogen, and add 2 oxygen molecules to create NO2, which is nitrite. The ammonia would kill the fish very quickly. If you've ever had a fish tank and the water goes a sort of milky colour and all the fish go belly up in the morning, that's ammonia that's just done it. The nitrite, fish can withstand that a lot longer, but it's still toxic for the fish. It will eventually build up and kill them. These bacteria created the NO2 have created food for these guys. These guys eat the NO2, or more specifically, they add another oxygen molecule to it and make NO3. And NO3 is nitrate. Nitrate is plant food. The fish can withstand a lot of nitrate. They'd rather not have it, but they can withstand a lot. And the plants are going to eat the nitrate. Once the plants eat the nitrate, what's coming back to the fish is perfectly clean water. And you've got very happy fish. It's a really simple system, and it really does work. There are issues to make it work. Everything has to be balanced. These bacteria don't like sudden changes. If you suddenly apply more food, there'll be suddenly more ammonia. But these guys have to multiply in numbers to match the ammonia. If they don't, they have an ammonia spike and the fish can die. So whenever you do something in the aquaponics, you've got to do it slowly, or be aware of what's going to happen and have a plan for it, which might mean just putting more water in there. The next one. How you actually achieve this is really simple. It's a similar picture to the one before, except I've corrected it. The fish simply pumps it up into there. Now, in this case, the bacteria are living in the grow bed, and the bacteria are converting the ammonia into nitrate and nitrate. They don't do it on every pass. The ammonia might get several passes around before it finally gets converted and the plants get to eat it. So it's not as if the water comes out of here crystal clear, but it's coming out cleaner all the time. Really, the system is as simple as that. Ways you can grow plants, because the plants need something to grow. In fact, what we've got back here really is a situation where we've got 3 components to this system. We've got plants, fish, and we've got bacteria. An important point to remember is that in this system, the bacteria are the most important single thing in the system. And to prove that, I can take my aquaponic system and rip every plant out of it, and it will continue to function for months. It won't be bothered, because these guys will still convert ammonia into nitrite and nitrate, and the fish can live with the nitrate. So it will still function even without plants. If I rip the fish out of my system, it would continue to function. Because even though there's no fish, if I put food in there, the food will break down. When the food breaks down, it will produce ammonia. The ammonia will get eaten by that bacteria, and the system will just simply keep working, even without the fish. But if I take the bacteria out of this system, the fish will be dead in a week. Without those bacteria, there's no filtering. The ammonia runs up and the fish die. In theory, you could throw a bit of fish food in there with nothing else in the system and wait. That stuff would start to rot, produce ammonia, and the bacteria will just come out of nowhere and start populating the system. If you are doing it, however, you want to kickstart it quicker than that. So you see somebody like me who's already got a system and has some of the bacteria in bulk, take some home and seed the system. Another way to do it, see, my background in Queensland, we used to collect Australian native fish, breed them, study them, and then release the young back where we caught the parents. I don't remember what I was talking about.
Bacteria?
Yeah, right, yes, you're right. To start a tank, fish tank back then, if you had a fish die, just throw it in a new tank, in a clean tank. Right. That dead fish will kickstart the system. He'll produce the ammonia, and he's actually carrying the bacteria in them. These bacteria are that common. Without them, we'd be cactus. Our gardens wouldn't even survive. Everything else. They're not hard to get hold of. It's one of the beauties of this system is there's nothing wacky, high tech about it. So you're going to have bacteria. You've got to think about the bacteria. Everything you do, their welfare is important. If you can keep these guys happy, your system will be happy, which means no sudden changes. They like the water sort of, if you can, between 5 and 30 degrees, which isn't hard to do. Not hard at all. They like aerated water. Very, very important. The water has to be aerated. I'll go into that in a second when we get up to the next bit as to why. The plants need a home to grow. I'm about to go into that. Fish are easy. They want water in a tank and a little bowl of water down the bottom so they don't go thirsty. Now, this is a grow bed. Up the back corner there is a grow bed. It's just simply a container full of gravel or something similar. The water comes from the fish, comes up, fills the thing. Now, it can either fill it and slowly drain, or it can fill it and fast drain. I don't. Some people let it stay full with water. I don't. I like to fill it and then fast drain it, and there's a reason for that. The bacteria are aerobic. They like it to have plenty of fresh water, plenty of fresh oxygen. If you just fill it and let it stay full, you'll end up with sections here and sections here where the water doesn't get changed over and it becomes anaerobic. And those bacteria will kill your bacteria and produce toxins that will kill your fish and kill your plants. And I find the best way is to do the fill and fast drain. And if you drain the whole lot, you can't end up with stale water. It gets replaced completely every single time it runs. Later on, I'll go into why I do, how I do that specifically. That's one way you can do it, is with a grow bed. Another way you can do it is with grow tubes, which is what I've got over there and what I've got around the top of the shade house and on the back fence. In this, the water comes up about every hour, almost fills the tube and then runs back into the fish. And that's all there is to it. The roots just hang in the air and just touch the water, and they get wet every time the water runs. The plants are really happy with that. The roots get plenty of air, which they need. They need oxygen. These grow really well. You don't lose as much water out of this as the next thing I'm going to show you, which I don't have a picture for, but I'll show you an example. It comes in and trickles in the top, and trickles down, and hits the roots of the plants on the way down. That's all there is to it. They're never actually submerged. Plants love this. But if you don't own the place, if you own the place, you can solve the problem. You can put a gutter underneath it to catch the water. Because when the plants get big enough and their little branches start to hang down like that, they feed the water off and you end up with water dripping everywhere. So you lose water out of these, and that's why I don't use it. But it works great for plants. It works for, you can grow plants in this, you can't grow in those tubes because the roots grow down. So you can put a plant in here and his roots can grow all the way down and he thinks he's in deep soil. So he'll grow nice at all. Whereas these guys think they're in shallow soil all the time. they know when their roots hit something. So, yeah, that's a vertical.
What plants grow?
Plants are actually sitting in a floating bed. That could be foam, could be anything that'll float. Plants just sit in that. Roots are wet all the time. And you think that would cause problems with root rot and things like that. If your oxygen levels are high enough in the water, and if there's enough changeover of water, it won't. Roots simply need oxygen, and if they get enough out of the water, they'll be happy. And if you change the water over often enough, it keeps the roots clean. You don't get anaerobic bacteria that causes root rot. So they will grow hanging in water like that without any problems. But I don't do that. This is sort of other alternatives called Dutch bucket. Basically, it's a bucket full of gravel. As long as you've got water trickling down and through it back into here, the plants will grow. They're just looking for a substrate to grow in and for the nutrients and water to get to the roots regularly enough and enough of it to keep them happy. Filtering. I've got a filter on my system. Right, if you watch videos on the internet, you'll see guys running big drums with this sort of stuff in it, tumbling all around the place. I don't. My filter system is a 20-litre bucket. I've got a bag that I made, which is just that green shade mesh that I just stitched up with fishing line. I filled it with K-pop from $5 pillows from Kmart, and that's my filter. And that beats that, no worries. A 200-litre drum of that, hands down.
What did you say you filled it with? What's the
K-pop. It's synthetic K-pop. Go to Kmart and buy the cheapest $5 pillows you can. Tear the insides out of it. It's got enormous surface area and holds trillions of bacteria.
Could you use hair
You probably could.
or sand?
You literally probably could. Oh, yeah. There'd be you could probably use wool. There'd be all sorts of things you could use. I'm using the synthetic. It's been in there for 7-8 years now. It's been cleaned 6 times, and that's all. The bacteria that live in it do the job for me. Anything that goes into here, the bacteria attack, they break it down, and next thing you know, I've got clean water coming out. I do this. I have a separate filter and a constant flow into my fish because I love my fish and I treat it like an aquarium. And I want them to have the cleanest possible water. If I keep them happy, hopefully the rest of the system's happy. But you don't have to. A lot of people with those big drums simply feed from the tank out through their system, back through that big drum and back in. And it works. It really does. But I think this is better, and it's worked great for 8 years. And I think for a small system like you've got here, you don't need the cost and the problems of the big drum. And yeah, they don't filter as well as that does. Because it comes down to that, with that fine sort of K-pop in there, is a beautiful bacteria home. There's like lots of places and pockets and area for the bacteria to grow on. Whereas this depends on the bacteria just growing on the edges of these plastic things. And it doesn't have the surface area. And it's possible for the water to get into the drum, through the drum and out without the water. An individual droplet, if we watched it, could make its way through without coming into contact with bacteria. Whereas mine, water cannot get through there without coming into contact with bacteria. If you flow the water slower, this wouldn't cope with the water flow that the big drum can. But that's not a problem because I run it constantly. It's just doing this. If you have a look in there, when you have a look inside the fish tank, it's crystal clear. Always has been, no matter how many fish I've been. The big sides. Because if the fish come up the side, they hit the curve and go back into the centre. You won't lose fish. My fish don't do that at the moment, and I've got a cover over them, but I have lost fish because they have done it. Something spooked them, and they followed the side straight up and just gone, oh dear, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have
Not
done
to
that.
mention the kookaburras.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Got to watch kookaburras and have a cover on it. I've come out here and found them sitting on there looking in at the fish. And gone, okay, I've got you some little matey. The that covers you for the fish insofar as you just fill it with water and you put fish in it. It's not overly difficult. People will tell you you've got to keep the bottom clean, make sure that you've got no gravel or anything like that. I hate doing that. I love fish. I don't know what fish love doing. They love getting on the bottom, finding a bit of sand or gravel and having a rub on it. So I leave some in the bottom. It's just something for them to rub against. And some pots and things like that for them to play with, swim around, swim in. It really does make them happier creatures. I don't want to see 40 fish just swimming in a circle in a tank that's got nothing. Poor little guys, you know, they're not that, they are a bit sick-minded, but they're not that bad. Yeah, keeping them happy. Your grow tubes, things like that. All my grow tubes have been, almost all of them, picked up off the side of the road. It's very rare I buy a new pipe. I'm always recycling, reusing it now. Having said that, you know, I might find several lengths of 110mm. I then have to go to Bunnings and buy the end caps. Because the chances of me finding the right end caps on the side of the road are pretty slim. But the tube really is, the grow tubes that are on the fences really are just an end cap gets glued on each end, and I just simply bore a hole for the cups. Give me a cup and the grow cups. These are dirt cheap off eBay. I bought about 60 of them or something like that 8 years ago. I'm still using them. I haven't lost one yet. They really last. I just simply bore, I think it's an 80mm hole in the tube, and they just sit in the 80mm hole. That's it. The plant grows in that. The water, the fittings, I bore a hole in the end of the end cap, and the fitting won't screw in, it's threaded. Right? I could thread a hole, that takes too long and I'm too lazy. So I hit it with a heat gun, soften the plastic, and then I just screw the fitting in, and that threads it. That's a perfect fit then. Once it cools down, it won't leak, it won't fall out. Works a treat. These tubes here, you can see that's just a similar thing. It's been plugged, it's had the threaded bit put in the end. To make this, which sort of looks fancy, you just cut in with a circular saw or a hand saw until you're almost halfway through it. So you just put a slot in it, get the heat gun, and then get the cup and just go like that. Push it in, and the cup will make the shape for you. And it even makes that little shape there, which helps them, they clip into that. That's it. Works a treat, and that's how I make those guys. That's all there is to it.